Okay, so I'm going to be answering another question from my comments section. And as I've mentioned before, I'm trying to answer some of the questions in my comments on video so that people can hear my responses and hear what I actually think. So this question, it came from a comment from my video, Landlords Say Newark Makes It Practically Impossible to Own Rentals. And it's coming from a Monte Macon. I have a question. Do any landlord consider the minimum wage worker? Because I listened to two landlords say their goal were to raise rent because all poor low-income people were bums and drug addicts. I didn't finish my lunch. I wanted to beat the mess out of them. I hope Tony don't think like them. So, no, I don't think like them. I don't believe that, all poor, low-income people are bums and drug addicts, okay? That is ridiculous. And, they probably weren't being serious either, so don't get too upset about what they were saying. But when they were talking, they probably deal with a lot of bad tenants. And it seems like when you're dealing with low-income tenants, you're going to have more per capita than, of the bums and the drug addicts and the people with problems than you would with the higher income tenants. So I understand what they're saying, but I don't agree with that. But the first part of your question, when you're saying, hey, do we consider the minimum wage worker? I'm assuming when we're trying to raise rents or whatever, right? Well, here's the thing, right? No, I don't consider the minimum wage worker. And I don't consider the wages of any of my tenants when I'm doing rent increases. I don't consider the wages of any of my tenants when I purchase my properties. The thing is that when I am running my business, the only thing I consider is, okay, is this a rent level that, the market will accept? Is this what the market is charging for the rents? So let me use an example. Okay, I own a house here in Omaha, Nebraska, right? And the rent for that house is $2,000 a month. So I charge the tenants $2,000 a month for that house. But if the market said that people couldn't afford $2,000 a month, I wouldn't be able to charge that amount. Now, if my tenants, suddenly lost their job or whatever, do I say, okay, well, now I'm going to take a cut, in how much I'm going to charge the rent because, these tenants are low income? No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, hey, the rent is $2,000 a month. If you can't afford to pay the rent, then you need to go find somewhere else to live where you can afford the rent. And my focus will be on those who can afford to live in my property, not on those who, make a lower income. So, that's the way that I look at things, okay? My property for rent is not targeted towards specifically keeping the people who make minimum wage happy. No, my property is targeted specifically towards keeping me happy. I'm not thinking about them at all. And yeah, I am willing to work with a tenant who maybe faced a temporary loss in income or whatever. I'll even allow a tenant to break a lease if they suddenly find themselves unable to pay the rent and need to move on to somewhere that's more affordable. That's because I'm willing to work with them, okay? But you have to keep in mind, I am not a low-income housing provider. I am not a homeless shelter. And, if you can't afford to live somewhere, regardless of, what your income is, if you can't afford to live there, then I am not going to subsidize your housing, okay? So I hope that answers your question, and I'm going to keep trying to answer these comments in video format.